All right, hello. I think we are finally live. Sorry about the delay, 20 something minutes. I think that's fairly respectable. I am here with Kristi and here with Mike. So due to scheduling and technology issues, Kevin couldn't make it. So we're just going to discuss other things because we don't have everybody on board. So we're just going to discuss current events, and it's going to be different than it was originally billed. So I apologize for that, but I think that's just something we can talk about at a later time. So hello, Kristi. Hello, Mike.
Hey, what up?
Wants to say hello.
Hello.
Kristi is currently in
Hello.
DC. So I was thinking we could
I
get
am.
some updates, like what's the vibe in DC? What's going on over there? Like how's everyone feeling? Like how's the depression, etc.
Right. Well, yeah, I think so. I don't want to dominate too much if you want to get going on other things, but I'll give a brief one if you want me to expand. So I was able to get out into the city. It's before the swearing in ceremony started, but not very much before, and a lot of it was blocked off, so I wasn't able to get to anything actually like on the mall or anything close to it. But I was there as people were streaming out. And what really struck me was the extent to which there wasn't any kind of natural exuberance or happiness or joy. People were just like walking, like they walked to work. They was just like walking out and stuff, and they had their Trump stuff, and looked like there were a lot of tourists and people, like going by things. There were a lot of vendors that had Trump T-shirts and Trump scarves and Trump flags and Trump hats, and they were just sat there with nobody to talk to. They probably got some more after people came pouring out. But I guess what really struck me in terms of the difference was I had been on the marches after the Conservatives won the election in 2010 in the UK. They went through a policy of, of increasing tuition fees, of starting to privatize the NHS, and I went on a few of the marches because I, as someone who has student debt, I don't want to see British students go into massive debt in order to get an opportunity to have a good job. And that's really what what those systems do. And the protest marches were actually exuberant and joyful because people were coming together because they cared about something in common. They cared about things in common, and they were uniting around what they cared about the inauguration. But what really struck me was how people, when you come out of a sports event and your team is won, there was just really flat and not a lot of energy. Very flat, no energy, no low energy crowd.
Well, I mean, my impression is that a lot of the right-wing Trump supporters, etc., are there to like keep an eye on the leftists and see what they're up to. So they'll be like posting videos of like, oh, look at this triggered leftist protesting against Trump or whatever. But they're there to just sort of like, rather than support Trump and be excited, they're there to keep an eye on the left and be like, what are these leftists doing? So there was a video of a Trump supporter guy just like giving this big lecture to this crowd about like how, I don't know, people on the left are so violent and horrible and stuff. So it's like they're almost there to create a narrative about the protesters rather than support Trump in a weird way, like maybe that's why they don't seem very jazzed, because they're more just like keeping an eye on the protesters or something. Yeah.
A friend commented that it's an anger movement. It's a movement based on being angry and staying angry and being attracted to outrage, and then repeating that, and that going back for more anger, going back for more outrage. I think that's something that we recognize as part of something that happens in the community.
Also, you're roboting out, so you're very roboty. But I think you could work on the robot and then see if Michael has anything to say.
I was just saying that's a very familiar thing, the culture built on outrage.
Yeah. I'll try without video, see if that helps.
It's still kind of roboty.
Okay, well, you guys talk amongst yourself. I'll drop out and come back in.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, Mike, what's on your mind? What's going on?
What's on my mind at the moment, I suppose, is it's such a cliche that this idea that like the words like bigot and racist and sexist have just lost all meaning and stuff, because people just keep saying that, and I think it's funny.
Mm.
Mm.
Well, how do you mean?
Well, just recently, I was talking to a guy on Twitter who called me fascist left. He says I'm part of the fascist left and that I want to I want to censor everyone.
Mm.
And the reason for this is because Trump has been threatened with assassination or something like that. And I said, oh, it's so outrageous that someone wants to assassinate a a bigoted, sexist, sexually assaulting white nationalist. And he was like, those words have lost all meaning.
Mm.
And
Well, I
I
mean,
feel
assassinating
like
the president is never going to be a good idea, no matter
no, I
who,
mean,
unless the president is literally Hitler. I don't know if Trump is literally Hitler. I do know he's
no,
probably going to be a subpar, shitty president who's
yeah.
not going to help the working class. He's not going to help the people. He's going to have a very corrupt administration full of lobbyists and bankers. And you can see the confirmation hearings. Like a lot of his nominees are completely inadequate. And
Oh yeah, I was just watching a thing today about how it was looking at some of the people who he's getting in his cabinet, and there was this woman who was the minister of something. I can't remember what it was, but they asked her in her hearing what her opinion on guns in schools was, and she was like, well, I don't know. It's like, and then she said about how something about like a school in Wyoming or something where they needed to have guns to fend off grizzly bears.
oh yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
So we can't ban guns in schools completely because what about the grizzly bears?
that's a very good point. I've considered that myself many times.
Yeah. But I mean, so I'm not advocating for the assassination of Trump. That's obviously not a good idea. But what I'm saying is I feel like a hatred towards a man such as Trump is definitely not misguided. But it's funny because like the people who seem to be defending him just outright say he's not any of those things. He's not a sexual assaulter. He's not a white nationalist, or white nationalism is bad. So or he's not a bigot or a racist or a sexist or any of that stuff. He's just not. There's just no way. And it's either because they have this idea that that he hasn't done the things that people say of him, or because their idea of what sexism and racism and things is completely different. And I was having an interaction with someone the other day, and their idea of we were talking about transphobia. That's right, because I was saying that no, it was ableism. That's right, we were talking about ableism, and I was saying that we were talking about how Bering is using ableist language, and he's partaking in ableism by calling people autistic or retarded or whatever. And they're like, that's not ableism. He doesn't hate. You've got no proof that he hates autistic people. And I'm like, that's like saying that someone's not racist because they're not part of the KKK. It's ridiculous. Someone can partake in ableist or racist or sexist ideas or rhetoric, and can do those things. And sure, maybe they're not like a full-blown racist, but that doesn't mean they can't have racist ideas or like I say, partake in spreading racist or ableist rhetoric or something like that.
Well, I think casual racism and ableism and etc. While they're frustrating, it's considerably worse when you've got 300-something thousand subscribers, or when you're the incoming president. Then it's like these particular views are going to be rather more influential because they have a large impact on a lot of people. It's like a little bit different than some dumbass sitting on their couch, but then again, the dumbass sitting on the couch tends to vote in a president like this. So,
the thing is just that those people legitimize those ideas. It might in isolation, using the word autistic as a pejorative might not be so bad, but when you've got, like you say, an audience of 300,000 people, you're legitimizing that and that idea that that autistic people are somehow worse than you, and therefore it's good to use as an insult.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
would
like
say
this.
that all of us recognize. When
I didn't know Kristi was back.
I think all of us recognize when Bering. Yeah, sorry.
Jesus.
Hopefully, I'm not with retard.
What? completely cutting in and out. I think
hear
that
you
this
though,
is difficult. It's like Kristi is in DC
And
right
cunt
now
and-
with
I
like
think
quite a difficult.
It's
internet
unfortunate
connection.
because she's in a place which stands for disconnected. DC.
Yes. Okay. Is that any better?
Yes, I think
Is that
so.
any better?
Yeah, there we go.
My point was just that, sorry, what I was trying to say was that, you know, when a bunch of comments come in using the word retard and cunt, I know Bering has made a video because that's the kind of language he uses in his videos, and his fans come along and they just repeat those same words. And it's like, you know, dozens of people will use the same phrases over and over again, repeat his little mantras. And that's what he's putting into people's heads. Just those words in his video. And he uses those words in his videos all the time.
Yeah.
I had a tricky moment the other day because like
Jordan.
Sean Head has just noticed recently the whole child porn issue on Twitter and Candid, which her and Armored Skeptic have endorsed, but they've just noticed that like people are using that forum for like child porn and stuff, and that it's harmful. So she was like, yeah, Candid's the reporting for Candid is difficult to do. And I was like, oh sweet, she's talking about it now. And she was like, it's totally retarded. And I was like, this is difficult for me to like this tweet because what she's saying is so right, but then she just like goes into edgelord mode and it's like it's all retarded and shit. And I'm like,
Yeah, see, that happened to me last night. I was watching.
It's like I like this tweet, yet I don't like it. What do I do?
I was watching Kevin's. Oh, sorry, I was watching Skeptical Squirrel's video about the stream that Bering and Jeff Holiday did, and where they were, coming up with ideas for things to spam a chat with, right? And the things that they were saying, like I was watching this thing, and the things that they were saying, trying to come up with, were just like awful. Transphobe, they were calling Jenny McDermott like a sexy, post-op. They're trying to come up with like things about how she's a tranny or whatever, and
well, that would probably offend Jenny on the grounds that she seems to hate trans people. So
yeah, but I just like the things that they were trying to say and the things they were coming up with and the rhetoric they were using. I was just like, how are you guys this awful? And it made because before that I was kind of feeling some sort of, I don't know, towards Jeff because he made that video about child porn, and I was like, okay, yeah, I really dig this, and I get where you're coming from, and so I was like, yeah, okay, Jeff, I can agree with you on this. But then I watched that shit, and I was just like, no, fuck that, he's a cunt. I can't. I don't care if you're gonna you get your virtual signal about child porn and stuff, and be all cryy and so emotional because child porn. Where you're an asshole. It's the same as people going on about the Black Lives Matter kidnapping and being all upset about how racist it is when they don't even care about any other racism. They're just using this to further their agenda and virtue signal.
It's seen as like a bipartisan issue in the sense that somebody will make a video about child porn and then everyone will get on board and be like, yeah, that's a good cause, and everyone can support it. And then the very next day, go right back to acting like a total douche nozzle. So, I mean, it's tricky.
It is. It very much is. I don't know. It's like, what if Trump came out tomorrow and was just like, yeah, I really feel strongly about, such and such an issue, which we can get on board with. And he's, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but you're still a cunt,
Well, this guy here, he says Jeff raised $5,000 for Haiti.
Yeah.
What the fuck have you done? I hadn't heard of that.
I'm sorry, I don't
That's
have an
fine.
audience of 80,000 people who are willing to do whatever I say.
That's a good cause. But then again,
I don't see
I just made a video about child porn, so I'm
exactly.
awesome. Sorry, Kristi.
It doesn't negate.
It's not like you. Yeah. Go ahead, Michael.
That just reminded me. I've been watching Jessica Jones, right? Okay, have you guys watched Jessica Jones?
Yep.
Yes, love it.
So when Kilgrave, there's the episode where Kilgrave, Jessica takes Kilgrave to this house where a guy is holding his family hostage and with a shotgun and whatnot, and so she gets him to tell everyone to stop, and he like saves 4 lives or whatever, and she's like, that's great, you saved 4 lives, and he's like, wow, that feels really good. How many more lives do I have to save to like negate all the other ones that and she's like, that's not how it works. You can't just save people's lives, that doesn't negate all the people you killed. And it's the same thing. You could, just because you know,
because other people give money. It wasn't his money, right?
Yeah.
He just asked other people to give money, and those people give money, so those people get credit.
And it doesn't negate the fact that he's a dickweed.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the thing I find weird. You know how, like, special snowflakes, crying little special, and then he makes a video that has a trigger warning, and you're like, wait, what about that shit that you just said about special snowflakes? Yeah. Shouldn't he have said at the start of his video, like, I'm gonna make a video about child porn, and if you can't handle it, fuck off, snowflake.
Yeah,
wuss. No, but instead he had this like flowery, nice little like, this is a really hard subject to talk about, and I hope it doesn't traumatize you guys. You know, like, what about all that rhetoric you're using before? Anyways. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, okay. So, Kristi, we've been cutting you off. What's going on in
sorry, Kristi.
Kristi world?
Well, hopefully, no, my mic has been cutting off. Right. So, yeah, I'm in DC. I got in, gave myself a day or two to get over the jet lag. If I yawn occasionally, it's not because I'm bored. It's because I'm still getting over it. But yeah, tomorrow is the big Women's March, and an estimated 100,000 people are meant to turn out. Obviously, we'll see who turns out in the day. I will say that when I was out today around the city, I actually was starting to run into people who are here for the other march. They have like sometimes hats with cat's ears on them. And so you can kind of recognize who is here for the march.
Fairies.
Or like pink, kind of like, you know.
I don't know if they're full-blown fairies.
They're not like actual cat ears. They're more like kind of poking, like knit hats that are sort of, they look like they could be cat ears. But anyway, yeah. And so I can show one of my protest posters if you want. I can turn the camera on if you guys want. I can show that. All right, I'll get that set up. So I turned it off for the problems with the sound. So hopefully I won't lose my sound because I'm putting my screen back on. Oh, you know what? I just muted it so I can turn it on this way. Ah, damn it. Suddenly yes, come on. Oh, you know what? It's the audio. Sorry, it's my various settings. I thought I'd turn my camera off. I hadn't turned my camera off. I turned the stream down to only audio. So now when I put it on, yep, that should come up. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? All 3 people watching. So I don't want to give them all away, but this will be one of them. So that kind of sums up the current, well, basically status of the Trump administration, beholden to Putin for his election.
They seem to have a bit of a love-hate relationship currently. Because
a little bit of a bromance going on there.
Well, but it's a love-hate thing because he'll be like, you know, Putin's a great man, he's the best leader ever, he's fantastic, and then Pissgate will happen, and he'll be like, fuck Russia, hate the Russians, oh god, stupid Russia, and then tomorrow he'll just go back to loving him again. So it's very on and off. Depends on what's happening.
Yeah, well, first I've heard it called the Golden Shower dossier. Which I like. The other thing is that Putin did come out and basically denounce the sex tape allegations. So Putin went out in a press conference. I saw that's my recollection, defending Trump in a press conference. So it might have been Russians who gave him the information, but Putin is basically defending Trump. So
wouldn't that mean Putin would be working against his own intelligence people if they had involvement? I don't know if they did.
I do not know where allegations come from. It's definitely not true that Mr. Trump be peed on by sexy Russian ladies. This is not true. False allegations.
Yeah, on the bed. Not, he was like, I'm a germaphobe. I'm like, well, it was on the bed, not on you. But anyway, my understanding is that this information came from a former MI6 agent, initially hired by a Republican person during the primary. Not necessarily a candidate. We don't know who it is. We don't know it was funded by somebody who was working Republican because it was a primary thing. Then after he won the nomination, a Democratic person took over. I guess the guy was farming it out going, hey, I've already done all this work. Do you want it too? I don't know what exactly happened, but a Democratic person paid for him to finish the work. And in July of last year, because he was formerly MI6, he became so alarmed at what he was seeing in the reports that he was gathering, that he actually submitted that information to the FBI in July. And they did nothing with it. And that's what's coming out now. So these allegations, all of the stuff that was included in the dossier that's not verified, and money, you know, some of it, there's I'm not saying that it's true. I don't actually care that it's true, because Trump is the guy who promoted birtherism and the idea that Obama was born outside the United States. So he doesn't get to claim protection of factual accuracy. That's out there as far as I'm concerned, and I get to use that. So just like he used it, you know, the gloves are coming off. I'm not that interested in Trump's pride right now.
Mm.
So that's the sort of provenance of the information.
I'm not a fan of people just making shit up, though, you know. I mean, that's troubling to me, whether it's about Obama or whether it's about Trump. Even though, like, I think Trump is going to be a terrible president and he's a piece of shit, I don't like the president of just people making up something that happened and just putting it out there. I mean, I don't know how good that is for democracy, you know, even if you don't like Trump. Maybe I'm just not activist enough.
Yeah.
About this.
Did you guys hear about the Paul Joseph Watson thing that happened?
Yeah.
No. No, but for the audience and me, can you explain, Michael?
So a guy, like a 21-year-old dude from Scotland, made a Twitter account and direct messaged Paul Joseph Watson saying that he had some secret information from that he was working for like CNN or NBC or something like that, and that he was whistleblowing for the to say that they had some like damning footage of Trump saying the N-word during like an outtake of The Apprentice or something like that, and that NBC were going to release it around the inauguration or whatever, and it was going to be like a big thing that was going to fucking destroy him. And he messaged Paul Joseph Watson saying this, and Paul Joseph Watson was like, "Oh shit, okay, give me information. I'm going to write up an article now." And so he wrote up this article about this whole thing, which was just made up. It was completely made up. But Watson didn't check any sources, didn't do anything that a proper journalist would do. he took this message from an anonymous Twitter person, and
oh really? Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And he hasn't even changed. He hasn't redacted it or anything like that. So
that was literally like, "Hey Paul, I've got a story that fits everything that you want to hear," and then he's like, "Sounds legit." Because it confirms everything I already think. Great, I'll report it right away.
Yeah.
Well, we do have people who were on the set, both camera people and talent, you want to call it, the people who are participating in front of the cameras, who said that he did say those things, that he made very inappropriate comments, and some of it was caught on camera, but all of that was like on the cutting room floor, and the people who own the footage are friends of Trump, so it'll never see the light of day. So I mean, it was at least plausible that someone got their hands on this.
But it's more of a story of the journalistic standards of Paul Joseph Watson, rather than the information. It's like, if you are, I mean, I don't know, like in what world we could call him a journalist, but if you are a quote unquote journalist, you should confirm shit that people tell you. You can't just take hearsay and like people just telling you random crap. Like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's report on that. You could tell the fucking guy anything so long as it fits his narrative, because he's a total ideologue. He's just like, I want things that fit my worldview. I'm not going to check them. I'm not going to follow up. I'm just going to say, yeah, that's good. That'll do.
So did he do a retraction on his channel?
I don't think he has.
He couldn't, because he's Paul Joseph Watson. How could he possibly do a retraction? It sounds impossible.
He published an article on InfoWars. That was what he did.
If he did a retraction, I bet you it would be like, look at these leftists lying to the media. He'd just blame them.
It's typical of the left fake news, machine.
It's got nothing to do with the fact I didn't confirm the story.
Yeah.
It's all about the leftists saying fake things and me buying it.
Yeah.
It's their fault I'm stupid.
It was a good piece of bait, and he took it, basically.
Yeah.
He tweeted yesterday, "If any violence occurs at tomorrow's inauguration, it will be entirely the fault of the MSN, which has legitimized and encouraged hysteria." And I was like, "You fucking kidding? You work for fucking InfoWars."
All he does is create hysteria,
the outrage and the anger that people want to feed off of.
The blacks are at it again with their massive
Yeah,
violence. Be afraid. Be scared. Walking down the street, you're gonna get killed.
I guess we should talk, since we're talking about it, if you
Hmm.
want me to talk a little bit about what it was like walking around DC for 3 hours today between like noon and 3 o'clock, it was fine. It was peaceful. Everything I saw was fine. And I know that it did kick off.
You did say
Yeah,
that
go
the
ahead,
vibe
Tim.
was that you for starters you said the vibe amongst Trump people was a bit low, or that the vibe was a bit like
Yeah.
subdued.
Yeah, people were just literally, you would, at least first the streets were quite empty because, you know, like there wasn't masses of people piling in. But even when people came out and were going to get lunch and stuff, it was just like, I heard one guy with the, how do you say it, Vuvuzelia? Is that the right pronunciation?
What?
And he would go, woo, Trump, Trump. And like that was the only person I heard.
And the
Being
crowd's
happy at like above a
yay.
conversational level, level of conversation, loudness.
That's really fun.
That's why I think like the people who support Trump, a lot of them are just out there to see if the left is going to get up to anything. They're like trying to take videos of yelling leftists or whatever, and be like, "Look at this, it's out of control." But you actually walk around, it's like probably not much is going on. It's probably pretty boring.
No, I mean, I think it happened, you know, there was a very sort of short, like a block area where anti-capitalist, anti-fascists, I think I read in the Washington Post earlier, were kind of, you know, kicking it up. It was all kicking off, and that's unfortunately where some people
Kristi,
get injured.
roboting out right now. My God.
I don't know how to fix
So
that.
much robot.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you...
I'll come back.
Yeah,
Once
if you
again,
restart,
without
whatever.
emotion, the humans are dead. Hey, it's my good
Jesus.
friend that girl. She's here to tell everyone, you know, about, you know, the
Michael,
things that
you're
they're saying
wrong about sex and gender, you fucking idiot.
Yep. And
facts, not feels. Nerd.
Yeah. To be fair, we did agree on the whole ableist thing, so that was nice. I like to agree on things.
Wait, what do you mean?
Oh, when we were talking about the whole use of autism and that sort of thing, her and I agreed on that in the Twitter conversation.
The main issue I have with calling things autistic is not out of like any kind of snowflake offensive thing. It's just autistic people are a group of people that I have no desire to throw under the bus just for the sake of a joke. Like, I don't know, because to me, that's like making this random dig at a whole bunch of people who are not involved. And I don't know why I would use them in a joke like that. But I think people are pretty fucking dumb, so they just find it funny because they're idiots. So
and then people are like, they try to justify it by being like, yeah, well, you know, I have autistic friends and they're totally okay with me calling them autism. And I'm like,
yeah, and I've talked to like autistic people who are like, it's just lols, it's just funny, it's all that kind of stuff. And as you know, I respect their opinion, but one autistic person doesn't represent every autistic person. Like, not everybody who's autistic is perfectly fine with having them randomly thrown into insulting conversations, you know.
I
mean,
had one person
people
was
do
saying that because it's on the internet, that makes it okay. They're just like,
Yeah.
it's happening on the internet.
on.
It's just what happens on the internet. It's okay that way. No.
Even trans people, like some trans people, are like, I don't care about being called tranny, so it's fine. And it's like, well, you're not the only trans person who's currently alive, are you? Hey, do you represent all trans people? Like, I don't represent all white cis males.
If you disagree with Blair White, you are a transphobe. And Blair White is the authority on what is trans and what is not.
Yeah, and if Blair White says offensive shit, you're just not allowed to take issue with it because she's trans. Like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I was arguing with people yesterday because I pointed out her ridiculous transphobia. She keeps going on. No,
yeah, like when people tell me, like, Tim, you're just anti-white. Like, I am white. It's impossible for me to be anti-white by that logic. So fuck you. I literally can't be anti-white no matter what I say because I'm white.
Yeah, exactly right.
So fuck all you people.
The magic circle of protection.
Fuck the
Yeah,
police.
exactly. I can say fuck the police. I'm a police. I'm not actually a police, so I can't
I
say
am
that.
a police. That is how I job. My
I
job
was born
is
police, bro. Blue Lives Matter.
I was born with this blue suit on.
Yeah, Blue Lives Matter is literally like, I mean, you can't be born police. Like, yeah, that's stupid. Anyways.
I know, it's a stupid thing. Yeah.
Anyways, Kristi, what were you saying about the excited party of joy about Trump's inauguration?
Right, yeah. So then walking around afterwards, it was literally like might have been like a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock when the shops were closing, because there weren't a lot of cars around. The traffic had been kind of diverted and blocked off. There were a lot of people walking around, but they were just sort of like just walking around, and that was it. They just going on getting some lunch or whatever else. So it really didn't there wasn't a vibe of like happiness or some stuff in the city. So
yeah, Obama's inauguration
and then
was
in terms of
huge.
yes, yeah. So in terms of like the protests, the news coverage, obviously it's always more, they're going to pay more attention to the things that went wrong. But those 100 people, they were probably, there were tens of thousands of people there. And I know that there was also some problems last night they had a ball called the Deplorable Ball for the people who are deplorable to go and be deplorable, I guess. And there were some protesters outside of the Deplorable, and there were some scuffling. So I don't condone violence. I don't think it solves anything. Smashing a building, all it does is make somebody fix it. It doesn't solve any political problems.
Well,
but because I went on the march in 2010, I know that we had a great march all day. It was really positive. A lot of people came together, and then in the evenings, a bunch of people dressed in black with their faces covered, wearing black Doc Martens and carrying black backpacks, started dragging barriers and setting up a conflict with the police. So I've seen before how peaceful protests are often or can be taken over by people who have an agenda, who want to use the cover of nonviolent protests to engage in vandalism and disrupt things. And we shouldn't conflate the actions of those people with all of the people who went on the march earlier in the day and were peaceful and protested to give their voice to their, not to destroy property. But of course, the media will just say the protesters, and they won't separate out the people who are there to be destructive from the people who are there to be expressive. And so it's up to us. I know, again, I speak from personal experience, having witnessed anarchists do this and co-opt marches that I've been on, to not buy into that easy narrative of equating everybody who is going to be there tomorrow with the actions of people who went there with the intention of using the cover of these nonviolent protests to try to kick things off.
But Antifa are considered more violent, right? Like they're fine with like provoking people. I know like they like to find out where Nazi people live and go trash their houses and like destroy their apartments and stuff. And I think I'm really not for that kind of stuff. I believe more in like the MLK peaceful resistance kind of model. But that's why I'm not Antifa. But I guess like I saw some photos of like Antifa people smashing cars and shit. I don't know if that shit's accurate or whatever. I mean, have you seen anything like that?
I saw, according to the news report that I read, again, this is from the Washington Post, that a car was like a police car, kind of SUV thing, was trying to pull out, and it got stopped, and someone threw a rock and smashed the window of the police car. And I think also there were some things being hurled. So people, like I think a postal worker, ended up being taken to like hospital or something, or taken for medical.
What threat is a postal worker like this?
Again, these are things that I'm just reciting that I see the little blips come up on my phone. So there were a few incidents. In the last count I saw was that 100 people had been arrested, and that there was some vandalism to buildings, but I don't know that anybody was like injured to the point of being hospitalized. It's more like, going to get medical treatment. That might have changed, and if the facts emerge subsequent to this hangout, I'll just want to say I'll be corrected on the facts. That's fine. But at the moment, there's a lot of attention being paid to those 100 people.
Yeah,
and not a lot of attention paid to all of the non-violent things that happened for the 99.9% rest of the people out.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's be honest. That stuff's the fault of the entire left, right? That's how it works.
Well, can you guys remember there was that rally where these people were like, "What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now." Apparently, that I can't remember the exact date. But it was like it was an older rally where there was like thousands and thousands of people doing a peaceful rally, and it was perfectly fine. And then afterwards, a couple hundred people stayed behind, and they did that rally, and they easily could have just represented an extreme minority, but then the entire rally is just remembered for that. Like, everyone just forgets.
Well, it's like
all
what
the
people
other
do about
so-
Black Lives Matter. They say that Black Lives Matter
Oh
is a
yeah,
violent
Then they said
organization.
that. Then they keep citing that rally to say that rally
exactly.
represents all of Black Lives Matter for the rest of time, and it wasn't just
Yep.
like an extreme minority. What about the massive rally that came before that was entirely peaceful?
Mm-hmm.
That gets completely ignored.
Well, if that's the
Okay,
case,
but-
then the only thing that then every anti-feminist is represented by the phrase "I wouldn't even rape you."
Yep.
If that logic holds.
Oh, but
That's
some
what
of them
QAnon
actually
stands
think
for.
that
That's
that's
what
a good
TJ
joke.
stands for. Yeah.
And the entire Republican Party and Trump are all represented by fucking Richard
Yeah,
Spencer.
the whole right.
And they're all represented by the alt-right crazy fucking ridiculous assholes.
Right, and Gavin McGuinness recently just assaulted some random dude who was holding some Antifa guy, was just standing around. He just shoved him and then just started like pushing him against a wall and yelling at him and shit. And it was completely unprovoked from everything I can see. And Gavin McGuinness represents the entire conservative movement. So why are you guys just committing violence on random people?
So the Republican Party is a violent organization, is what we're getting at.
Because Gavin McGuinness exists.
Yep, exactly.
All of you are to blame for him being an arsehole.
Yeah. I find it kind of baffling how people make all these claims about Black Lives Matter when none of the leaders of the movement would condone such things. The majority of the people who are Black Lives Matter supporters or leaders from the movement or whatever are non-violent protesters who just want.
Well, I think the only valid point that they could have would be that BLM leaders don't call it out enough. That could be true. Maybe they need to just call it out more, and then that's fine. But if they are calling it out, you can't constantly say that they stand for "we want dead cops" because they are calling it out. Go look at their fucking Twitter accounts, and see what they're saying.
But then again, okay, well, for one, Trump doesn't call out the Nazis that support him, so then
Nope. Yeah.
But then also people are saying kill cops or whatever, pigs fry my bacon or whatever it is, but black people are actually getting killed by cops.
Well, you could say BLM is not the perfect movement to represent that. That could be a valid point of view, but I think you can't deny the reality that there is a big racial issue between.
Oh no, racism isn't a thing anymore. There's no institutionalized racism. You can't prove that.
Right. Well, I mean, you could say I am against police brutality, and I think there's a racial issue, but I don't associate with BLM. Okay, you still are concerned with the actual problem, but I just don't agree with people who just deny that there's an issue. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how can you look at the video of a man running away and a cop shooting him in the back, and that cop wasn't even found guilty? I think there was a mistrial. What do you have to do to actually get prosecuted as a police officer for killing someone?
It's an isolated incident. That's an isolated incident.
But then people say cops commit more violence against white people, etc., that kind of thing. Yeah, I think police brutality in general is a problem. And I think that the racial issue is a component of it. But I think there is also a problem with militarization of police and police violence in general, and them being overly aggressive against just everybody. There is also a wider police problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, I living in the UK, I did some to earn my living. I worked with a housing situation for young people who were basically the next step was homelessness. And those kids had issues, and I was just there for night relief. I'd show up at 8 and I'd stay till 8 the next morning. I was just there to be on call because I'm not a professional. I was just babysitting while everyone was supposed to be sleeping, But occasionally,
Kristi's not a professional. She said it herself. Not a professional.
Not at that though. Definitely not at counseling. So we would have, kids would have a lot of emotional issues. They came from abusive families. They had addiction treatment issues, and they would sometimes let in friends who had similar issues. But we had a guy who came to stay. I don't think I'm doxing him in any way by calling him. His name was Ginger Dave. Ginger Dave came in and was hanging out with his friends.
Ginger Dave.
Yeah, Ginger Dave. I don't know. We have gingers,
Sounds like a good cunt. I love it.
But he got quite drunk with his friends and started to get really rowdy. Now, he wasn't a resident, so we wanted to get him off site. And we called the police to bring them to get him out of our property. And the way that the police handled it there was so completely different from how I have seen police in America handle these situations. So the police, there were two officers who came in. Ginger Dave was stood in the lobby, or we drew him out into the lobby or whatever, because the police wanted to talk to him. And Ginger Dave was drunk and angry. He's, oh, I fucking hate the old Bill. I hate the old Bill. Oh, you know what I really hate? I really hate the old Bill. And he's like giving him the finger. And so he went up to their faces to insult them, you know, like Barron would do.
Dang.
And the cops just sort of a little bit, and he stepped forward. You know, he kept following them. So what they did was they just sort of like walked away slowly, and he followed them going, oh, I fucking hate the old Bill. Oh, I hate the old Bill. And we opened the door, and the cops walked out of the front door, and he followed them, cursing giving them the finger, and we just shut the door behind him. And once the door shut behind him, the cops just walked away from him, and it was over.
Yeah.
Now in the United States, if you came up to an officer drunk, aggressive, swearing at them, giving them the finger, taunting them, telling them how much you hate them, they would wrestle you to the ground and arrest you. You know, so what they did was they saw the situation, and they knew that their problem, what they wanted was to get him out of the building.
All right.
And they handled it in a way
But,
that
I
they
mean-
just took that abuse in order to achieve the goal that they really wanted. And
There's one issue
I
there.
thought it was fabulous.
So did
That's
they
for
put,
another
they,
really-
they put that guy on the street? Like, what if he goes off and be aggressive to someone else? If they just put him out on the street?
Well, at that point he was, yeah, well, I don't really, you know, at that point we shut the door and we tried to get the residents, you know, to get back into their rooms. So I saw on the security camera that they just kind of walked away, and I think he realized
I think
how they
the I think
punked him.
the
But you could put him.
the point is-
you could put him in a holding cell overnight or something, couldn't you?
Yeah,
To,
yeah.
like,
but I
calm
think the
down.
point is like employing like pacifist tactics rather than being overly aggressive towards people who don't need to be. But like I saw a video once of I don't know where it was, France or England or something like that, where someone had a gun and they were pointing it at a whole bunch of people, and the police just like they had their rights.
Oh,
shields or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah.
They all just kind of swarmed around him and pacified the guy
I saw that.
and put him into custody. You know. And if that had happened in America, the guy would probably be dead, you know, unless he was white. So you know, there are other ways of dealing with these situations, but it seems like that doesn't happen that often, you know.
The reason the problem in America is because of the way the Second Amendment has been interpreted and
Right.
the laws have been
But Kristi,
built.
you keep roboting, so over time you gradually
That's
robot.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right back.
Some people are saying, you know, they think there's a problem, but Black Lives Matter isn't the answer, right? But I feel like that's a bit of a cop out. I'm like, well, okay, so Black Lives Matter isn't the answer, but at least they're trying to fix something, and at least they're trying. I feel like if it's not the right answer.
Well, that's the thing. You could start to disagree with the optics of a movement and be like, the way the movement looks isn't what I like. But at the same time, if there's been like media demonization and just right-wing hysteria over the movement, then they can easily just like make something look terrible that isn't actually that bad. Something that comes to mind is, for example, ages ago, a while back, they had Acorn, which was this like just voter registration service, basically, for minorities and low-income people and various people, and they just did this propaganda campaign, and then everyone was like, well, Acorn's super corrupt and it's rigging the elections, and then they shut it down. And none of that was actually true. It was just, they were just registering people to vote, and they were helping people with housing, and they were helping them with education and all kinds of things. And then this right-wing hysteria campaign, and everyone was like, Acorn's evil. And I feel like there's been a similar thing happening to BLM in some cases. So you might say that BLM doesn't represent the way that it's supposed to be done, but not notice the fact that the image of that movement has been completely poisoned just by everything you've been hearing about it, which is just so over the top and so unfair. So, and then what? They'll replace it with another movement, and that will get corrupted by the media, and you'll say that's bad. And so, at what point can you just find a movement that perfectly represents resisting this kind of racism among the police that's not going to get corrupted by the image of it, you know?
Well, it seems to me like the same kind of thing that happens to feminism. Like people think that Black Lives Matter is a black supremacy movement, and people think that feminism is a female supremacy movement, which are both patently false. But
You keep hearing that every day, and then you'll be like, yeah, it is.
and if that affirms your biases about the whole thing, like you, yeah, it just I don't know what
Eventually,
the
you
answer is.
just have to keep relabeling things, and then that label gets corrupted, and then you relabel it something else, and then that gets corrupted, and then it just keeps going on forever. So, yeah.
But if you believe that everyone's already equal, and black people aren't being oppressed, and women aren't being oppressed, and everyone's all equal and shit, then I think it would be easier for you to think that Black Lives Matter or feminism are about supremacy rather than anything else, because you already believe that these people are equal. So surely this movement, if it's not about equality, because we already have that means that it must be about giving them extra rights and stuff.
Well, fuck. I mean, if you're on YouTube and you're subbed to like all these anti-feminist people, every single day is just going to be this endless litany of grievances around feminism. Eventually, you're going to think it's the most corrupt and evil movement of all time.
I just can't understand how anyone getting if your entire understanding of feminism is from YouTube anti-feminists, then of course you're going to have it wrong.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what's Sargon saying today? Feminism is shit. What's Chris Reagan saying? Feminism is shit. What's Sean Head saying?
Oh, feminism is shit. Pwned. Oh, they're so dumb and stupid and
What's Undoom saying? Oh, this feminist is stupid. What's Bering saying? Oh, this feminist is a retard autist. What's it just goes on forever. Like, how are you supposed to get a realistic view?
Feminism is tainted by too many bad apples. What? I don't understand that sentiment at all.
Well, at the same time, feminism it's quite broad and it's large and it's all around the world. It's somewhat abstract. So when you say bad apples, what do you mean? Like, for example, like a bad apple to me would be like TERFism, TERFs. We've been talking about that
totally.
recently. But fuck those fuckers. Those fucking bigots.
But like TERFs and TERFs share similar opinions to anti-feminists. Like,
they're conservatives. They cannot handle the fact that things are changing. They're like, no, if you have we want to stay with the two genders.
Yeah, so people like always go on about how awful radical feminists are, and when you actually like radical feminists are actually like TERFs and SWERFs, right? But those aren't the people they're talking about. They're talking about people like Lacey Green and Riley what's his face and Ashley Thingamajig. All the kind of
pop feminism,
which I don't know. The people I don't see them as.
I'm not a fan of Lacey Green, but it's just because it's not really my style. I think it seems
like
kind of shallow. It's like drive-by feminism. It's like, all right, but I don't have a particular issue with it. It's just like, fine.
Okay, so Onision is one of the people who is a bad apple for feminism.
Oh, that guy, yeah. Well, he seems unbearable.
He just came out and said he's not a feminist. So, I mean, I don't know. The thing is,
he's a narcissist.
It's not about people. It's about values. It's not about people. It's about values. It doesn't matter who says I align myself with X, right? Ted Cruz believes in democracy. I believe in democracy. I'm not going to stop believing in democracy because Ted Cruz is a moron idiot that I disagree with. It's not about the people. It's about the ideas. And if you can't criticize the ideas without dealing with the people and criticizing the people, then what you're doing is you're setting up straw man, you're setting up entertainment. You're not engaging with the ideas. You're basically looking to mock people on a regular basis to make yourself feel good about yourself. That's not thinking. That's bullying. Right. And so the problem is not bad apples.
It's the whole Ownage culture that Tim was talking about in his video, and the idea that you're somehow destroying feminism by attacking teenage girls, like that, or the goal being to win, to be right, to the goal in mind is to win the argument and be right, rather than.
But they don't even want to win the argument. What they want to do is shut them down. They want to say, you should never speak again. And if you never say what you think, then free speech for me has won and I am right. But what you haven't done is actually won an argument. You haven't actually demonstrated that you have a good idea. What you've demonstrated is that you can bully people into silence. And that's not freedom of speech. That's bullying. It's a difference.
But criticism isn't bullying, so you know, that's
Criticizing ideas isn't bullying. Criticizing people. And if you can't divorce the argument from the person, then you're not really thinking.
Well, I mean, I was
You should be
thinking
able
of
to
doing.
go through an idea
We've been talking about it
and criticize that idea without criticizing the person, you know?
I've been thinking of making a little like montage of just some of the hate comments I get. It seems to me they come at like they are very creative. They try every possible angle to get under my skin and try to make me feel bad. So they'll be like, "You let women walk all over you," or "You're a beta male," or I don't know, "You're ugly," or "You're fat," or "You've got greasy hair," or you know, anything. "Oh, your couch looks like shit." That's one of the ones I got. "You've got a shitty couch. You must be poor." And it's like literally they're trying to think of everything they possibly can, and it's quite fascinating. So I thought it would be interesting to just show the kind of things that people say solely to try and get at you somehow. And then when you complain about it, they're like, "It's just criticisms, just criticizing."
Yeah, except when when it happens to shoe at head.
Yeah.
You know, we get told to kill ourselves like every day by people in that comment section, and it happens to shoe and head in one video, and suddenly Armored Skeptic's like, is this what the anti-feminist community has come to? Like, no, that's what the anti-feminist community has always been. You just haven't been on the receiving end until now.
And
Yeah, that was quite interesting.
And then TJ says that thing about, "Oh, we've birthed we've birthed all these monsters or whatever," and it's like, well, no, TJ, do you not listen to the stuff that you say? Like I remember one of my friends tweeted a thing back at him, you know, about like his thing about how this chick deserved to be raped. You know, this thing that he said a while ago.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
surprised that the people following him and imitating him are abhorrent, awful human beings. No, that's 90%, 95% of your quote unquote movement is that. You know.
Yeah, and the videos are filled with that.
Arguments.
I just think Armored Skeptic and Chew are kind of out of touch about what's going on.
Oh, totally.
It's kind of weird. He's like, "Is this what modern anti-feminism is? Just people telling you to kill yourself and insulting your appearance?" It's like, yes.
That is exactly what it is.
That's what they do. This is it. You know, the people think they get blocked because we don't want to deal with their arguments. No, here's the fact. If you can't make an argument without insulting me or demeaning me or doing something to, you know, degrade me as a human being, I'm not going to respond to you. There's just no point. You don't get to then have me give you a courteous response when you use slurs to me. And I actually have like a video plan. I have so many videos and I don't have time to make them, but I have like bad commenters. And one of the bad commenters are people who actually start out with like reasonable, like that you start out the post sounding pretty reasonable. And they're like, "Oh, well, you know, this is a problem. This is a problem." And then you're like, okay, then by the time you get to the end of it, then suddenly they just spout out like, "Ah, you feminazi cunt bitch, you better slit your wrists and die." Banned.
Why did you add that bit on the end?
Yes. Why did you add that bit on the end? Because now you're just off my channel. I never want to hear from you again.
Some commenters write novels that have like, I guess they've got a bit of substance in there, but they front load it with a fuckload of insults. Yeah. And so I start reading the comment and I lose motivation to read it after like 20 seconds. Yeah, and then I'm just like, why did you waste
after 20 lines?
Out of like 170. And then I'm like, why did you waste your time writing all that shit and front load it with insults so that I can't be bothered reading it? Like, it's a waste of time. Just fuck off. I'm not interested in anything you have to say, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
If they can do that novel with no insults, I'll read through it and I'll be like, wow, you gave me a different perspective. Like, I hadn't thought about it that way. But they'll front load it with like, "You stupid fucking white knight cuck, this is what you got wrong, idiot. Read up on this and that," and then they'll have a novel, and I just would have lost interest already because it's like I don't care about reading some douchebag who just is interested in
that sense of entitlement.
You fucking dick.
Yeah, and the sense of entitlement that you are meant to sit there and read every insult that they throw at you, and then again reply back and give them your time. Like, no.
Well, plus their novel, plus their War and Peace length response to everything I said.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first 2 seconds, I lost interest. Because they're a douche, you know. Fuck you.
Like I get it where you write a comment and you have things to say, and I understand that because I used to be a viewer too. But we only have, as content creators, we only have so many hours in the day. And we get lots of people who make response videos to us, and a lot of people who write us comments, and a lot of people who tweet us, and a lot of people who direct message us. And if we spent time responding to all of the people in writing who, or even in videos, who responded to us, we would never do anything else. We would never make another video that we wanted to make. And so, yeah, you can have your comment, whatever, you can have your view, but you're not entitled to a response.
Well, but you see, like,
you're just not. There's finite hours in a day.
If someone's just gonna write an insult that's transparent, I can look at it, be like, "That's all right. You insulted me, whatever." Move on to the next one. But if they do an insult plus War and Peace length novel comment, it's such a waste of time. Like, why do you bother writing all that extra stuff? Why don't you just call me a stupid cuck, tell me to die, and then I'll be like, "All right, I can see that. I don't have to read all the extra crap." You know. God. Anyways,
I get like. I think it's kind of funny as well how you have like, I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong here, but it seems to me that I have just me. I haven't even looked at what Tim and Kristi and God forbid like Steve Shives or someone like that, but video responses to us. You know, the amount of people that have video. So but funny. How many video responses are there to guys like Bearing or Sargon or, you know, TLDR or whatever, you know? And people talk about us being in a fucking you know, echo chamber, but like I am constantly bombarded with, you know, if I block someone on Twitter, 5 other people will disagree with me. You know, it doesn't, you can't create an echo chamber on social media at all, especially if you're an outspoken feminist like one of us. And people on here are just saying, "Oh, someone Mike blocked me." Da 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 da. Yeah, I'm pretty loosey goosey with my blocking because, you know, it really doesn't make a difference to anything that I hear. I still will on a daily basis receive hundreds, maybe not hundreds, dozens of negative or contrary opinions to tell me how wrong I am. You know, or videos that someone's made. Suddenly, you know, there's another person who's popped up who's made a video response to me. Oh, great. Okay. I don't know how many video responses I've had to things. It's just a ridiculous number. And so, like, I'll block people on Twitter. Generally, like if it's the first message that I've received from them and they're abusive in that, I'll block them instantly. If I know that they're like a follower of Bearing or someone like that, I'll generally block those people as well because I'm just not interested in there. But there are a bunch of people that aren't, you know, Bearing that are Bearing followers, and I haven't blocked yet because of some weird masochist desire inside of me. You know, so I don't know. It just kind of depends, and also like on YouTube, I block commenting on my channel if you are transphobic. I you know, if you come on my channel and say
I'm the good SJW because I only have 2 people blocked on Twitter.
See, you
just have to deal with way more shit. You just deal with garbage, just a waterfall of hate. And, you know, I've gotten to the point, actually, and I'm gonna shout this out. Bearing did a video about me. I think it didn't get nearly as many views. I think it was the one that he did about Michael and me together and whatever. And I didn't even notice that he'd done a video because I've blocked enough of his asshole followers now that when he does something, they can come over and they can comment. They can look at their comment and feel really proud of themselves. No one else is going to see it. But you know what? My comment section are actually like decent now and people are having conversations. And I'm not going to go back because, you know, there is no right to free speech on my channel. It's not a public space. It's not a government. It's my private area on YouTube. And I don't have to put up with your bullshit. So if you have a point you want to make to me, if you can't do it without swearing or insulting me, then you're not going to make that point. And that's not my fault. That's yours.
I can't. I
drop the
you
mic.
Don't have the right to expect me to allow you.
Mike, now you're roboting. I'm surrounded by these goddamn filthy robots.
No one is entitled to be able to walk up to anybody else and insult them and demean them and expect that person to take it. And because it's the internet, that doesn't change it. It's still a person on the other end of that message. And, you know, there is, you know, again, with Shoe on Head, yeah, that's better. With Shoe on Head, she was astounded that someone would tell her to go drown herself or that hope that she would die in a violent manner. Like, oh my God, welcome to my daily life.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I've noticed people,
when we complain about Bearing fans, this is what we talk about, this nonstop torrent of abuse. And you guys force us to block you because you're such assholes. Not all Bearing fans, but the Bearing fans that do this ruin it for the rest of you guys. It's why you guys can't have nice things.
Yeah, maybe
Well,
call out some of
It's
the,
because of the other
some of the
fans.
bastards, you know, in the bearing fan base. That's what you know. People seem confused at me saying I block someone who I don't, you know, block someone who follows someone I don't agree with. No, it's not me blocking people who follow someone I don't agree with. It's me blocking people who I can pretty safely say are going to be abhorrent assholes. You know, like if you follow Beering, you know, like I say, there are a couple of people that I haven't blocked who follow Beering, and I've, you know, given them a chance or whatever. But you know, generally I'm just like, no. The majority of the time I've interacted with any Beering fan, they've always been an abhorrent asshole. So, and if you have a problem with that, maybe you should call out the abhorrent assholes within your group, because you know that they're the ones who are ruining it for the rest of you. If you really want to have a conversation with me, how about you first fix your fucking group of people, and then maybe I'll not do that. But for
It's the same thing about why. It's the same thing about why I ended up turning off my likes and dislikes. First, I don't really care, and I can see it anyway. But the only reason that people were coming over to my channel were to get the thrill of thumbing down my video and then like going, "Oh, look at all the downloads or downvotes or the dislikes."
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I think it's
find
USB, man. USB. You guys are both using USB, right?
Yeah, maybe.
It's USB because I stopped using USB and I just plugged analog directly into my sound card. It fixed the entire problem.
I need to get a better mic then. I find it. I assume it's because the people who comment don't actually have YouTube channels or don't have active YouTube channels, so they don't know. But I get so many comments saying, "You've disabled dislikes. Are you afraid of what it's going to show?" And just for your information, people out there, I still see the dislikes. So you know, it's not because I'm afraid. It's because I know that it's going to tick you off, and so you've taken the bait. And then I delete your comment. So you know, you're wasting your time if you're going to tell me that, because you know, I still see the dislikes. I still see how much you hate me for no good reason.
Well, just on the shoe and I'm a skeptic thing, I got into some arguments with people and they were passing the difference between somebody saying it in a video and somebody saying it in the comments. So they were just saying, like, you know, if people are constantly telling you to kill yourselves in the comments, that's different than someone saying it to you in a video. But I will say, where do you think that forms? Like that amount of people going on one channel saying kill yourself, faggot, piece of shit, cuck, whatever, that's formed from the culture from the top down, from the creators on down to the subscribers. So what Satiritician was doing was just a more obvious version of it. He was just doing a very blatant version of it. But if you watch other anti-feminist content creators, they are constantly trying to undermine the actual people that they're responding to. So they'll be trying to discredit them or you know, imply they're stupid, be like they're special snowflakes, they want their safe space. All of this shit, on and on and on. And to me, that creates a top-down culture of ownage, wreckage, and destroying that is reflected in the comments. And the thing with Satiritician is he just made it too obvious. He was just too obvious about it, directly saying, "Yo, go kill yourself, bitch, jump in front of a bus." He doesn't talk like that, but you know what I mean?
It seems to me like dehumanizing tactics, right? You know, saying these things to try and dehumanize the person and create this distance between them. So it's okay.
Yeah, just other people are more subtle. So Tradition was like not subtle enough. He went too direct. That was the
and that's
issue.
okay, because the girl was calling for a genocide or something. So she was asking for genocide, so she deserves to die.
Even like Ahmed Skeptic in his responses, like he was having a fight with this Reese dude who's like a atheist dude, and Reese is being a bit of a dick because he's kind of a dick too. They're both kind of douchebags. But in one bit, Ahmed Skeptic's response was just he threw up his hands and this rainbow came out and it just said, "Are you retarded?" And that was all it said. And I was like, that's not a fucking response. That's nothing. That's just like, literally, I will insult you as a person, and that's my response. And I was like, and then he went off, and like, Ahmed Skeptic's very hard at staying on point, so he just went off on some ramble. And I was like, this is the stupidest exchange I've ever fucking seen, to be perfectly honest. And Reese wasn't too good at either. He was like, "Oh, I'm a skeptic, you're virtue signaling, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, this is just stupid. You know, it's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that came up, it's actually something we've talked about, like, amongst us as friends, but it's also something that Steve and I talked about when he visited, or when we got together, which is the difference between the way that the feminist YouTubers generally behave with their channels in the way that the anti-feminists do. So if you talk to a lot of anti-feminists, they'll say, oh, look, I'm a character. I'm not really that person. I wouldn't ever tell somebody in real life to go kill themselves. This is just a character that I'm playing. And I have to hype this thing up, right, to be entertaining. I have to, act more angry than I really am. This is dusty. I've heard this from a couple different people. And the thing is that when we go on, we don't hide behind the avatars. We put our faces, generally, more of us put our faces out there than not. And we don't play characters. We talk about the things we really care about. So this isn't something that we do to entertain people. We're not going out there and being outrageous and exaggerated for views and go, oh, well, that's not really who I am. That's just a character that I play. No, when I'm on the channel, I am myself. And that's the difference, is that they think, they're not real.
But that seems to fall flat as well, because okay, they're not real, but they still believe the things that they say, or that at least they affirm those beliefs in their audiences. That feminists are a certain way, or Black Lives Matter are a certain way. And that just seems to be a cop-out excuse that really doesn't absolve you of any guilt, because, or not guilt, but blame. Because you're still affirming these awful things and, influencing your audience into doing awful things.
Yeah, when you're agitating and exciting people by being over the top and being outrageous and acting like you're really angry and you're really upset at this, and then you turn off your camera and you're like, I don't give a crap about that. I'm just going to go hang out with my family. The viewer is agitated, and then they click over and they go to the channel, and then we see what happens and the kind of abuse we get. And as Tim was saying, the mistake that, I can't pronounce that guy's channel. Can you say the channel again?
Satirician.
The Satirician.
Yeah.
Tim is exactly right. His
annoying British
mistake was that he said it. He said plainly what YouTube will let you get away with if you only hint at.
But
that was the mistake that he made.
I was about to say it got taken down for hate speech, but it got taken down for hate speech because of the stuff that Shu was saying, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, if it had been directed at anyone else, that video, I don't know that would have been flagged for hate speech.
Yeah, I know.
I recently saw an anti-feminist friend. I'm always reluctant to say friend, but I think we're friends unless I get stabbed in the back. But she made a video talking about Riley Dennis or whatever, and because everybody's talking about the trans video Riley Dennis made, and the first thing Riley says is myths about trans children, and the person responding to this was like, trans children, fuck off, Riley. And that was about it. And I was like, is that it? That's the tone. Just oh, fuck you. Yeah, just and I was like, where do you think all of this kill yourself, tranny, fucking, insult shit comes from? It comes from videos like that. Where
it's not about actually having a discussion. It's about poning the stupid SJWs.
Yeah.
It's about the person, not the ideas. It's not what they said or what they wrote or an article.
That's literally what Omigon, whatever the hell his name is, said in his response to Ranting Feminist video about common anti-feminist tactics, where she said that you can still address the argument, and that's what she did. She blurred out the image and she distorted the voice, and was still able to address the argument, because that's what it's about. It's about what the person's saying, not about the person. And he full on said that's not what they're there to do. They're here to address that person and tell them why they're wrong.
But I think when Riley Dennis says trans kids, there's a whole bunch of people in the audience who have this confirmation bias against the concept of trans kids. So the only thing that you have to do is say fuck off with the trans kids shit. Yeah. And heaps of your audience will just be like, great. And they won't think about the issue. There won't be any conversation about it. There won't be any what are the pros and cons? What's actually going on here? Just be like, yeah, you read
I've just had an opinion
fantastic.
Reaffirmed, but I've learned nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. It's kind of like it's sort of like, it's not even a dog whistle because it's too loud. It's just a signal. It's it's not a virtue signal. It's just some kind of anti-feminist signal. Look, I just owned Riley Dennis. Wow.
and then they go and
Everybody
for instance,
on the original video. Like I will always, I can always tell. Like I never really even have to watch Bering's videos because I can tell what his arguments are by what his audience
the
is
echo
saying to me.
chamber. Yeah, the echo chamber comes over.
Yeah, they'll come over and they'll repeat exactly what he said, basically, on my comments. And they'll say, "Oh, did you think about this?" And if you go and look at the video, that's just basically parroting exactly what Bering has said. And so no one's thinking for themselves; they're just having their biases affirmed, and then and then repeating that. Like
Yeah, I mean, if it was, instead of asking over and over, prove the wage gap exists, why don't they make tons of videos demonstrating empirically that it doesn't exist? Instead of asking for more evidence, and then you give them the evidence and they want to argue about it. Like, okay, well, if you want to say this thing isn't a problem, show me it's not a problem.
Oh, well,
go run the numbers, go to the Labor Department, go do the research, but don't attack a person because they are using data and they've come to a different conclusion.
But it's been debunked
use data
like 30 times by like Sargon and that Skeptor guy. They all debunk it, so I don't need to think.
Yeah.
And yet still there's a World Economic Forum global wage gap index that comes out every year by people who are specialists in the field. I guess it's anyway. So yeah, the whole thing about hiding behind a person, and I don't want, I get it if people have YouTube personalities, but I think there is a consequence then for a personality culture that exists in the anti-feminist community, that we don't have personalities in the same way. We don't hide behind a person. It was a perfect example of this. Bering made false accusations against me. I've been defamed. I've had consequences in my life because of the lies he told about me. And Jeff Holiday was complaining that we weren't having fun with this, that this was all supposed to be fun entertainment. We were taking it too seriously. Yeah, I take what happened to me, and I don't want to go into details because I don't want to give any of Bering's fans the satisfaction, but there were consequences. And just like when Andy Warski said that if you accuse somebody of rape falsely and that information gets out and that person's life is ruined, you should be sued for that because you've done something, you've ruined somebody else's life. And the consequences for this kind of irresponsible speech should be borne by the people who speak irresponsibly. And if they feel like they're a character and they can get away with saying anything, then none of us are safe.
See, the only thing that matters, the only false accusations that matter are those against men when it comes to rape. Those are the only ones that matter because those ones happen the most and those are the ones that we need to worry about. So, I'm sorry.
When a member of their own community makes false accusations, they're just going to look the other way. I'm sorry, but every person who either repeated Bering's false accusations or didn't call him out, they have no credibility when it comes to the issue of false accusations ever again. Because when it happened on an issue in their own community, they stood by and said nothing or they repeated it. So how can you possibly then go on and talk about false accusations in any other context?
Did you guys watch the video? There's this guy who's made a couple of videos. One of them was saying how the logical llama has been stolen. So like this whole avatar being stolen thing.
This is because Bering is an intellectual property thief, and they want to spread it around as much as they can to diffuse from his theft. And they keep bringing up his theft when they do this. So sorry, but it's just true.
The whole
Go ahead, Michael.
I'm just saying the whole first of all, the whole accusation of Kristiosity was just so stupid because it completely misses the point that Bering was like selling an image that didn't belong to him on like t-shirts and shit.
Well,
Kristiosity
using it as his Patreon.
Yeah, and Kristiosity
page
didn't monetize anything. She wasn't making any money off her thing. So it's like a completely different issue in that sense. Well, and then go for it, Tim.
Fuck, what was I going to say? That's the two wrongs. That's the two wrongs makes a right thing. It's always like, wow, Bering, you stole this artwork and you did this, you did that, and then what about Kristiosity? And it's like, well, but what about the original thing we're talking about? That doesn't like cancel it out.
It's just a diversion.
And the other thing too is that when people pointed it out to her, she learned. And she went, you know what? You're right. I could be putting myself at risk. I'm going to change my behavior. Bering was told again and again and again. He just, I don't know if he thought he wouldn't get caught or that he was a special snowflake and accountability didn't apply to him, or what, or he just didn't understand copyright law and he didn't bother. He was too lazy to look it up. But he was warned for months in advance and he did nothing. So no, he doesn't get any sympathy. And when people did point it out to Kristi, she's like, I'm not at risk, but you know what? Just to be safe, I'm going to change it anyway. She's smarter than him.
One thing I've noticed, any time that I call out something, people say, "What about Kevin Logan?" and I'm like, "What about Kevin Logan?" When Jenny McDermott did the rape accusation thing, and then Kevin was involved somehow, and there was something going on there, and I was like,
and then he posted an apology video.
Well, I was like, yeah, and I was against what Jenny did, and I wasn't really around at the time. But yeah, if he was involved, I'm against that. Like, what's your point? What's it got to do with the original thing we were talking about?
Yes,
sure,
so
I'm against whatever it is
up,
you're on about. Yeah, but they always say that.
Since we brought up Jenny's name, since we brought up Jenny's name, can I be on the air saying something about Jenny? Because I'm never going to make a video about this.
Yeah.
But look, Jenny has a different opinion than I do on issues of trans exclusion. And you know what? That's her opinion. And I disagree with it. But I don't get the way that she reacts sometimes to disagreement, because I disagree with Tim on things. We've disagreed in the past. And Bernie versus Hillary stuff.
I finally made it.
Great. And I've disagreed with other people in the group on issues. We've had a pretty intense debate internally about the issue of sex workers, and I know where I fall in the issue, and I understand my friends fall in different places. I personally have no problem with the state acting to ban the burqa because I see it as an obvious symbol of oppression. A lot of my liberal friends don't agree with me. It's possible to disagree with people on issues. On 20% of the issues and agree with them on 80% of the issues. You don't have to, unless it's a live or die issue for you, where this is like the thing that you can't be a friend with someone if you think X. I can disagree with Jenny on issues and not have a problem with Jenny on anything else. So I think if I would just ask for her if people disagree, if I disagree with you, I disagree with you. It's fine. Like, get on with your life. It's not that important. It's really not that important that I disagree with you.
Jenny can't make
so
up her
that's
mind
my
about
thought
me
on that.
Because, like, anytime I disagree with her at all, she blocks me. And she's blocked me and unblocked me like 3 times now. And on her video about alcoholism or whatever, at the start of the video, there's like this dog, and I was like, cute dog, in the comments. That's all I said. And she went on this massive rant about how I'm trying to silence her because she's a woman who has an opinion that I don't like, so I'm trying to shut her down, all this kind of shit. And I was just like, no, it was just literally just a cute dog. What the fuck is your problem? And then she blocked me again because she's completely fucking psycho. Well, so, God, she's...
Yeah, I know she... Yeah, so this is why I could just kind of, like, there are things I agree with her on. There are things I disagree with her on. It doesn't really take up that much time in my day because I've got a lot of other things to think about. And I kind of just wish she would go, okay, these people disagree with me on this issue. That's their thing. I'm going to get on with my thing. I think it would just make it easier for everybody.
I've never
a lot less stressful.
I've never like insulted her. I've never tried to shut her up. I've always just been like, I don't agree with what you've said. I don't agree with that. I don't think that was a very good point. And then she flips out and she's like, yeah, I can't. Oh my God, you're trying to silence me. Like, bullshit. It's because her opinions are badly formed. She makes shitty arguments, and she's just not a nice person. She doesn't treat people well. She treats them quite badly. And on a personal level, she's very unpleasant. So that's it. That's the whole reason. All the other shit about me trying to silence her and like, it's such a load of shit. Yeah. She's unbearable.
Well, I'm not that intensely against, Jenny, maybe just because I don't, I kind of hold her at arm's length and I have for a while. And I know she made a video about how she's like unsubbing from a bunch of us. And that was news to me because
I tried to engage with her respectfully.
For a while,
She never allows me
visit her
to engage. She just like flips out whenever I try to engage with her. So fuck her. I mean, like, I was willing to be her friend, but she won't allow it because she just demands everybody agree with everything she thinks, even though she's putting out these videos that are extremely transphobic and incredibly badly argued, in my opinion. So
Yeah, and I think, we did our hangout on transphobia and the problems of transphobia, and it was, transphobic AF, and it was really more toward anti-feminist, but we have feminists who are transphobic as well. And again, if this is going to be the issue that is crossing a Rubicon for you, well, then she and I will never get along, because we just can't see eye to eye on that. But for me, that isn't the Rubicon. And I'm willing to say, yeah, I agree with her on X, Y, and Z, because I agreed on that issue before she said it. It's like the issues are independent of Jenny. And so I was always going to be trans inclusionary, because that's just my position. It doesn't really matter what she says. That's just where I am. It's about the issue, not the person, which is what we came back to, right?
Yeah, but you can't address someone's argument void of the person, because then you'll strawman them, according to many commenters.
Well, right, because arguments stand or fall on their merits. If you put a different face to the same argument, it shouldn't change the way your conclusion.
I know.
Who says it shouldn't change the way you feel about it? I know you're pointing that out. Thank you for setting up that softball. But that kind of comes back to the whole shoe. And I don't want to I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing Shoe on Head. I'm not. I think she was genuinely surprised at the level of vitriol aimed at her. And I don't want to say that she's never had vitriol aimed at her before. But again, when we talk about this, what we're told is toughen up, get a tougher skin, and deal with it.
Snowflake.
And you know what?
Fucking snowflake.
Yes. And so when I hear her say the exact same things, like, you're not making an argument, you're insulting me, you're just telling me to kill myself. How is that in any way productive? Yet when she does it, she's got a certain privilege, being an anti-feminist or in that community, to say those things, and people will listen to her. But because it's her saying her, it's not the topic, it's not the what is being said, it's not even how it's being said, it's to whom it's being said, that suddenly people go, oh, we shouldn't be talking to people like this. People get talked like that all the time. So why didn't people just tell her, get a thicker skin and toughen up? And it's that kind of,
her audience, and they're not going to say that because,
Right.
Anyways, what was I going to say on...
I was just going to say, sorry to take it back to this, but I still think the accusations of logical armor being stolen are hilarious.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yes.
There was one guy who first of all, he accused me of stealing the logical armor. And Bering has said this as well. He being the great scholar of copyright law that he is, he informed us that I stole the picture and then attributed it to Ranting Feminist, rather than the other way around, which is that, and Ranting Feminist just drew a picture in a rather popular style, and it happened to mildly look like another thing. But it was just kind of funny, because this guy kept his main points, the things that he said that were the things that really gave it away that I'd stolen this piece of artwork, was the fact that it had a long neck and pointy ears. And it's like, that's a llama. Llamas have long ears and long necks and pointy ears.
Well, I think that's just the distraction tactic.
I know.
So.
It was just hilarious. And then it was the same guy made another video about how Kristi has these sock puppet accounts and his evidence for these things. And he played. Can I just
say yes? Go, yeah. Finish. Sorry. I want to go off on that in a second.
I was just gonna. His evidence for these were so he played the voices of these two accounts, and they were both computer generated, Microsoft Sam woman voices basically, and he's like here's one of them, and he listened to it, and then he's like, and now I'm gonna play Kristi, and it's like I'm listening to the same person, and I was like, what? One of them is a computer generated voice, and one of them is Kristi. What are you on about? And
it's just confirmation bias for the win. Basically, you've got a conclusion and you're trying to work towards it any way you possibly can.
So apparently, according to this conspiracy theorist, I am running 2 anonymous accounts plus my own account. Now, I don't want to brag, but I put out a lot of content. I put out content on a regular basis.
All right,
and all of that content.
All right, Kristi, lots of content. Oh, jeez.
But I do hangouts. I clean up the audio. I break it into pieces. I put in musical interludes. So even when I do like a hangout, I'm trying to up the production value. When I do a video like showing that about Carl or anything else, there's a lot of research that goes into it. I write my scripts. I got to record it. I got to edit it. I got to do the video. Got to find all these pictures. So the idea that I can run my channel and put out the amount of content that I already put out, plus run 2 anonymous channels and do all the research and editing and recording that they do, and have a full-time job and travel for work around Europe, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm like, really, like, how gullible? I mean, it's like they see something and they just
no boasting
fixate
going
on.
on here at all, is there? None. I do this, I do that. It's no big deal.
I travel for work and I have a full-time job, and I'm an adult. I
have
really
a
well.
trust me, I have a tremendous job. Tremendous.
It's tremendous. It's
huge. It's huge.
It's huge.
Never
Job.
seen a job like this.
I don't have a problem putting my name to my opinions. I don't have a problem putting my name to what I say. I don't need an anonymous account. If I have something to say, whether it's Bering's bingo card or the response I'm going to do about, was I wrong about Sargon's tweet? I'm going to put my name to that. And, so yeah, it's just, to me, it shows the kind of creationist believer conspiracy level of how deep, like the way that creationists think there's a big conspiracy about radiocarbon dating and all this conspiracy.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same kind of mentality.
I gotta say, like, this is something that annoys me on both sides of the divide, is people comparing everything to creationists, because everybody does that all the time. I just think creationists stand on their own as a special brand of stupidity, and I don't think that having really bad arguments that don't have much evidence are just entirely the wheelhouse of creationists. I think they don't have a monopoly on it, but
I think it's a good
everything
analogy.
to creationism.
I think it's a good analogy to make, though, because
I find it a little annoying. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, to be honest. Like, everyone's always like, you sound like a creationist. And then someone from the other side's like, they sound like creationists. And you sound like a Can we just admit that everybody has shitty arguments, including creationists?
It's not just that, though. This is where I'm going to disagree with you, Tim. See, now you're going to make a video about how you're going to unsub me. No, I'm just kidding. It's a combination of using no evidence or bad evidence with logical fallacies as a replacement for actual evidence and arguments. That's the nexus of that,
and the dogmatic thinking,
parallel.
the dogmatically following of someone else's, word. Them saying a thing and then you just taking it as, absolutely no criticism, skrillecism. No, absolutely no skeptical. What's the word? God, my brain's not working. Skeptology. There's absolutely no skeptology when it comes to the things that a lot of these people say. They have a following, and they could say anything, and it would be instantly believed. And the gall of these people talking about how Anita says listen and believe is like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, again, Barry makes an accusation based on misunderstanding metadata about page views. And his viewers just take it and repeat it. And then when that's debunked, they're like, well, you still shared information about the page. Like, well, that's only because he made the false accusation that he'd been doxxed to justify that he was threatening to dox Danny. If he hadn't falsely accused someone of doxing him in order to justify his bullying of Danny, I wouldn't have had to demonstrate that he had been doxed multiple days in the past. So, again, it's his unquestioning belief. And then also the goalpost shifting, because Bering in his first video said, when I say dox, I mean my ED entry. Well, who was behind my ED entry? And then that changed to, oh, well, she was there on the day of the lunch. Oh, wait, that's not the case. Okay, well, 5 days after the page, she shared it. So, it's the way that they keep changing the arguments, the logical fallacies, the lack of evidence, the credulousness of the fans who just repeat these things over and over. All of this, sorry to go on a rant here, Tim, but that's where I come from when I compare them to creationists, just like Michael was saying.
Yeah. Well, because I get the same thing back, like other people being, oh, you think Kristi didn't do this or that because you're just like a creationist. I'm like, everyone's always throwing that around all the time. It's like one of my pet peeves.
Well, call them on it. Say, how am I like a creationist? How am I like Ken Ham? What did I do? Because I presented evidence, and I questioned this and I disagreed with this person. So just because they use the title doesn't mean they're right.
My problem with it is that it kind of assumes that there's a special branch of stupidity reserved for creationism rather than just a ubiquitous stupidity all around the internet, which is just drenching everything in its morality. And that's my feeling. It's just like there's so many fucking stupid people, you know.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig it.
You know, including creationists. So
I see where you're coming from, but I still disagree.
I think the thing that is the most for me is the listen and believe nature of the whole thing.
Hypocrisy. Yeah.
Man, Bering is just got like the best rhetoric in the world.
I'm asking him if he would like to go into timeout.
Yeah.
I'll give him a chance. Do you want to go into timeout? Yes or no? Let's see what he says.
I feel like the goal of someone hiding behind an avatar, has never shown his face except because he was kind of maybe doxed a little bit, calling, attacking someone's looks. I mean, you've got no leg to stand on, bro. You're gonna call someone fat and ugly and stuff.
Actually,
you hide behind an avatar all the time. You're a fucking coward.
I have a screen clip. I have a screenshot of a thumbnail from Mike Barbarossa talking about a Bering dox with somebody's face on it, and I'm just wondering, is that a dox?
Well, I mean, I've seen Bering now because of his music channel, and I think if you don't have something nice to say, just don't say anything. So
don't say anything at all.
I guess for people who are watching in the future and who aren't reading the chat, can you guys maybe give a little context to the few comments that you've just made, just for posterity?
About
offering Bering a timeout.
Okay, so let's listen to what Bering's had to say so far. I'm going to put on my best Australian accent. All
right, yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. Now, what was his first thing he said? G'day, you cunts. How's it going? Fucking g'day. Bering. No. He deleted a message. Oh, it mustn't have been very nice. Okay, he deleted one of his messages. What a fucking cuck! What? He's censoring himself. No, you're full of shit. That was one. Oh, hi, Fisty. That's one thing he said. So you can't actually say Kristi's name. He's like allergic
he can't
to
bring
Kristi's.
himself to say my name. He's like, he just can't do it. This is hilarious. I've defeated him. Yeah.
Shady, calling me Kristi. He's got like I said, sue me, you fat slit-eyed cunt. I bet you don't, because you're as guilty as fuck. That's some quality rhetoric right there.
That's pretty good accent there.
Thanks, mate.
This guy's hitting on the accent.
Hey, Michael, you're wrong, Michael. There's Michael. Michael, just shut up, Michael.
Yeah, I love the way he says Michael. Michael. Oh, Michael. Michael. And also, I didn't notice the funny way that he says front and center.
Yeah, I think if anyone really wants to
front and center.
If anyone wants to undo Bering, just sidle up to him and whisper my name, Kristi Winters, and you'll be like, "Oh no, my kryptonite! Don't say Kristi Winters. I can't even speak her name."
Kristi doxed me. Kristi doxed me.
Anyways,
Kristi doxed me.
So there's one more topic.
Everybody
this is a total segue. There's one more topic I want to talk about in the stream, which is just the recent. It's really weird moving into a more serious topic, but I want to talk about the recent attack in Australia, in Melbourne. Speaking of Australia, there was this horrible event which... Yeah.
Read the article?
Yeah, get some details about it, whatever. I just wanted to talk about it because it's quite a major event to occur in Australia.
Should I read it in Bering's voice?
If you want.
Probably not. Yeah.
No. No, don't do that.
I've been out of I've been traveling and doing stuff, so I would appreciate if you could just give me some background on it, and also I'm sure the viewers would too if they haven't heard of it.
Okay,
there hasn't been this kind of mass killing or violent event in Australia for a very long time.
Yeah, because of the whole gun laws thing.
The gun ban and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gun control doesn't work, but I mean, Anyway, what do we got here? 4 killed in Melbourne CBD attack. So four people are dead after a driver with a history of violence and drug and mental health issues mowed down pedestrians in Melbourne CBD, ending a crime rampage of almost 12 hours. He was brown. 10-year-old child.
Michael, Jesus.
I think we need to be a bit more serious about this.
Yes.
But
I think
okay.
Tim should take over.
Hey, I get two chances. A 10-year-old child, a man, a woman in their 30s were among those killed, while police announced a fourth person died at 9 p.m. on Friday night. 5 people have been in critical condition, including a 3-month-old baby, which is kind of nice. I like to hear that because I mean, it's not nice, but when I was listening to the thing on the radio, they said that the guy had run into a baby pram or whatever. So it sounds like the baby is at least alive, so that's nice.
Oh yeah. I think the baby's alive in I think critical condition. Yeah.
So some other kids and stuff. So basically, this guy like went on a crime rampage. He like stabbed his brother, and then went on a rampage through the night and didn't get caught until like 2 p.m. the next day after he'd like driven his car through pedestrian streets, and hit a bunch of people. And eventually he was shot by the police in his arm, so he fell out of the car wearing only red underpants, apparently.
Yeah. Well, so people have been talking about whether this was a terrorism event or whether it wasn't. A spectator said that he screamed Allahu Akbar, but that's unconfirmed because, I mean, there was just one guy that I've seen saying that. I don't know if it's true. But the guy definitely did seem completely unhinged and deranged.
Well, I do like in the report here how they say right off the bat that it's violence. So he's got a history of violent and drug and mental health issues, rather than how I've heard people report on this shit before.
Right, and it's very strange because I'm seeing all the different reactions to this. There are people reacting to it just on a human level, like that is just fucking horrific and horrible, and solidarity with Australia, and I'm totally behind all that kind of stuff. And then there's other people who are very, very tied to the idea that it's a terrorist event, and they seem emotionally invested in that being the case, because the Victorian police said that it's not a terrorist event, and there was a lot of pushback from people just saying it was terrorism. And but I think whatever the case, I mean, it's the footage is just horrifying. It's very sad, very distressing, and my thoughts with Australia. And I know we're a bit jovial introducing the story, but I think it's a horrible thing, and it just really depressed me. So
yeah, I think there's, I guess unfortunately, as an American, I've grown up with increasing numbers of mass shootings, and I've just over decades have witnessed news coverage of them. One thing I would say about this is that it's actually really important that we get the kind of crime it was right, because if this wasn't a terrorist attack, most terrorists don't start off by stabbing members of their family. And so a terrorist attack requires planning, and there's usually some choice in the target because it's a soft target, or it's designed to make people afraid, like the attack on the Christmas market, or the attack in Paris where they drove into people. Being chased by the cops and then running into people at the end of it, that doesn't sound to me like planning.
No.
So.
Well, what happened at the start? He wasn't being chased by the cops. He stabbed his brother or something. Then he kidnapped a woman, and he was driving to Victoria, and she jumped out of the car, and into Melbourne, sorry, and she jumped out of the car and escaped. And then he went onto like one of the main roads outside one of the stations. He was doing donuts. Everyone was like watching him just do donuts on the main road, like what the fuck's going on? And then he just drove right into the mall and just started running people over.
And I think it's important that they bring up the history, because he's had a history with the police before of violent offences and things like that. So I mean, that's not something that you can discount either. And it doesn't seem, again, it seems more like just a crazy dude.
Well, he had a Facebook post which was before he did it, where he said like, Armageddon is coming. I'm going to put the fear of God into you. And there was a bit of God talk. It wasn't about Islam or specifically. I don't know if he was a Muslim. He could have been, but he did. There was a bit of God talk in his angry rant, but it could have just been general stuff. It's hard to tell. So, and then there was one eyewitness who said that he was screaming Allahu Akbar, but I hadn't seen that confirmed by anyone else. Just that one guy. So it's hard to tell.
Someone who says that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, if we want to prevent incidents, whether it's a terrorist attack or somebody who has serious mental health issues, going into an extreme state and doing this, then we have to be accurate about these kinds of crimes when they happen, so that we can identify triggers or identify things, warning signs, or understand what we can do better if we want to prevent it. So it doesn't help to call a non-terrorist attack a terrorist attack, because what you're basically doing is you're confusing non-terrorist violence with terrorist violence. And terrorist violence has a political goal. It has a certain kind of motivation that someone with a mental health issue could adopt, but they're not adopting it for the same reasons. And those people with mental health issues can be treated. Right?
Well,
whereas people who are ideologically committed to committing suicide or martyrdom for a cause, you can't find the right combination of antipsychotic meds to get them off of that if they're not mentally ill. They're ideologically indoctrinated. So it is actually quite important to not mislabel events, terrorist events, when they're not terrorist events.
Well, when they label things terrorism, if the person is a Muslim, does that automatically make it terrorism? Like, putting aside any mental issue problems or any other factors? Yeah, does that automatically, like, what if they snapped and went off the rails mentally, but it wasn't like anything to do with any kind of actual political or religious
that's
motivation? Is that still terrorism? I mean,
it's how you. I mean, because like if you go ahead and label it as terrorism when actually it's a mental health issue.
Well, because people who are Muslims also snap, just like people who are not Muslims, people who are Christians, people like.
I'm just saying that the way that we're going to deal with it as a society is going to change depending on how we label these things. So if we come to an understanding that a lot of these things happen because of mental health issues, then maybe people will take steps to help people with mental health issues more. People are.
But if we think about
happy to oppose terrorism. But
if we think this through, oh, sorry, I'm just cutting you off completely. Go.
That's all right. No, go for it. I'm just saying that if the focus was more on mental, I'm not saying that these things are caused necessarily by mental health issues, but what I'm saying is that if the focus changes and the way that we classify these things changes, then the way that we as a society choose to deal with those things is going to change as well. So, and if it is the case that a lot of these things are caused by mental health, then maybe it's better to be sure that it's caused by that, rather than because if we start classifying things in the wrong way, then the cause is going to go misdiagnosed, and we're not going to actually fix the problem when we come to to go to fix it.
Well, my theory here with the mental health issue is, whatever information you have in your head is what's going to come out after you snap mentally. So, for example, if you're in this scene where you can't get women and you're really angry at women, and then you snap, your rhetoric's going to be like, I'm going to show these women who thought I wasn't successful, I'm going to get revenge. If you've got religion in your head, it might be like, for the glory of Allah or something. If you've got Christianity in your head, you're going to be like, to stop these baby killers. If you've got, you can have any kind of rhetoric in your head. If you've got fucking Alex Jones shit in your head, it's going to be to stop the lizard man or something. It's a matter of snapping. Now, we could say that some of these ideas are dangerous in the sense that they make you more likely to snap. But it's very difficult to say that that's the reason why you snapped, because I think anyone who has any ideas in their head can break mentally. It can happen to just about anybody. And then your rhetoric is going to reflect the kind of ideas you've got in your head. Now, it's a question of whether those specific ideas are going to lead you into that situation more likelihood than other ideas. So I think that's the issue there. Is having your head full of like a bunch of religious dogma going to make you more likely to turn terroristic? It's a difficult thing to know. But just like a whole bunch of other rhetoric about, that's really intense, could lead you to violent actions as well. And we see evidence of that. We see evidence of people getting violent over all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for me to tell.
Yeah, I would say, so one of the challenges that we deal with in the social sciences is the direction of causality. I will come back to this issue. Yeah. So for instance, I voted for a straight Democratic ticket in the last election. I also identify as a Democrat. do I identify as a Democrat because I voted for so many Democratic candidates over the year, or do I vote for Democratic candidates because I identify as a member of that party? And sometimes that causality is difficult to untangle. We call it endogeneity. And it's a problem that we deal with. Now, what Tim was saying about the sort of the direction of causality with religion is, I think it's kind of important here to be clear, because I don't think this is what you meant to say, but it kind of could be construed that way. I don't think what you're saying is that religion causes people to be mentally ill. I think what you were saying is that there are some people who are mentally ill everywhere, because mental illness is just something that we deal with as human beings. Different people have different challenges, and some people have mental health challenges. And all of those people with mental health challenges or problems or whatever you want, psychosis or whatever, they might latch on to different things. I don't think that the kind of religiosity they have necessarily will make them more or less psychotic. I would call it an exogenous, that's independent of their illness. However, as you said, how their illness manifests will reflect the rhetoric in which they are culturally and socially embedded, right? So if they're Christian, right? Christians will say certain things. Oh, okay, so why don't you guys talk, and then I'll come back when I'm not roboted anymore. I'll drop out and drop back in.
Okay, yeah. But I will just say on that, I think the more mentally unstable you become, the more certain ideas feed your delirium. So, for example, if you did believe in these, like, conspiracy theories, you know, the more mentally detached you become, the more powerful those conspiracy theories have a hold on your mind, until eventually you go try to shoot up a pizzeria, you know?
Yeah,
what do you think, Michael?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it could be similar somewhat with Islam, if we're talking about that religion coupled with mental instability. It could start to snowball in that sense, versus, I guess, people who are completely somehow mentally clear yet choose to do terrorism, which I guess is to me, that is could be more politically or socially based if it's not mentally based, you know? Yeah. What do you think, Michael? Are you still alive?
Yeah, I'm still alive. Sorry, I'm kind of distracted. But yeah, no, it's, I don't know, it's not something I really thought about too much. Yeah, so I don't know if you know, I can't really comment too much on that.
Amazing contribution, Mike.
All right.
Thanks.
I'm
I've
back.
been listening to you guys.
Can I continue my train of thought?
Yeah, go for it, Kristi.
What do you think, Mike?
All right. So I would. So.
Nothing.
Yeah. And endogenous and exogenous factors. So mental illness is a whole issue. I think when it comes to terrorism, what really sets terrorism apart, at least for political scientists, I'm not a security specialist, but in terms of political science and what terrorism, because it's basically, it kind of falls within the realm of politics and political science, because people generally engage in terrorist activities for political goals. Now, we can also call, let's say, we can say that people are motivated by Islam and their religious beliefs, but they're not motivated entirely for spiritual, or let's say non-physical reasons, right? They might want a caliphate. They might want to be ruled under an Islamic government, right? They want something that actually manifests in this world. They have a political aim there that they're trying to bring about. And the difference between, you know, a terrorist act and an act of random violence that might be committed by someone with religious beliefs is that terrorism requires forethought. It requires planning. It's something that it's a very deliberate act that people organize for and plan for, and there are cells for, right? And they choose their targets with malice of forethought. And so these are the things that I think are important to consider when there is an attack, especially when the kind of attack that happens changes. The first time you see an attack, now the classic example is until the second plane flew into the Twin Towers, you didn't know what was happening. It was possible it was a terrorist attack, but you'd never seen anything like that before. When terrorists started driving trucks into crowds, because it's a very soft target. It's an easy thing to access. Guns are hard to access in Europe. Explosives are much harder to concoct chemically than just getting behind the wheel of a truck. So we need to maintain some skepticism when something happens, so we don't misidentify something. But we also need to make sure that we reclassify what constitutes a terrorist act based on the motivation of the actors. I think that's really
this person
what
asks,
defines it.
Terrorism can't be spontaneous? Question mark. Yes? No? What do you think?
So this is it. I mean, you might have someone who has a spontaneous vengeance. They see something and they act in the moment. But the thing about terrorism, in terms of like the definitions used, is that it's designed to have a political goal, and that usually requires some kind of planning. So an assassination requires planning. The person who went and shot the Russian ambassador in Turkey, he planned that. It might have seemed spontaneous to us, but he had to get a gun, he had to formulate, he had to find the guy's schedule, he had to know when he was going to be there, he had to get in the room with him. All of that requires forethought. So yes, I can't think in history of a terrorist act that was entirely spontaneous, without planning, without any organization, without any preparation. Just somebody happened to have a gun in their pocket and saw someone and then decided in the moment to do it. It's usually far more deliberative. And the guy because it's done for a goal.
The guy in Melbourne, his Facebook message was very vague. It was just like, I'm going to get revenge on somebody, and the fear of God will be in people's minds, and it's Armageddon is coming, and or something. It was very vague. It wasn't. It was like, what was his goal, except to just just to kill random people?
Yeah, there's a reason why when ISIS claims responsibility for somebody and they show that they have connections, they're working on their caliphate. They're working on basically antagonizing the West into a war with Islam, because they think it's going to bring about their earthly paradise, they're what they want to achieve. And the more the West engages that and picks up that rhetoric, the more they're happy, because they're looking for a fight. They're looking to pick a fight with us in that way.
So Mike, you were saying something?
Oh, I was just going to say, it just, it seems like a long drawn out police chase is like the furthest thing away from a terrorist attack. I just don't see how. It just seems like it seems like you've come to your conclusion already.
Message of some kind, like
but I mean, the fact that he like stabbed his brother and then was just like running away from the police in a car and then he did some burnouts and shit. It just seems like people, like, if you're going to call that a terrorist attack, it seems like you've already come to the conclusion. It's that whole, having a conclusion already, finding evidence to back that up, and then I won. It doesn't seem like. That's not how.
Yeah, we had the Boston bombings. After the bombs went off, the guys ran, and one was killed by the police, and the other one was eventually arrested, and brought in. And yeah, they both scarpered. But the point is, they had already put the bombs off at that point. They'd already done all the planning, and they had sort of achieved, if you want to call it that, their goal of disrupting and killing and maiming. So they were then, on the other side of it. Whereas, it's kind of weird to start off, you said, like it just doesn't seem to have a political end to it. It seems to be a series of events that happened rather than a planned event,
And also we have to ask.
And that's the scary thing about terrorism, is that people spend so much time planning out killing other people, and they never go, dude, this is way fucked up, I shouldn't do this, and then stop doing it. They take it all the way to the end. And that's what's really scary about terrorism, is the fact that they...
I can't say that word. Forethought.
And
bleh.
Yeah, and you know what? You can't necessarily, in those situations, you can't blame it on mental illness. And to me, that's scarier. That's a bigger threat to be dealing with. I'm not saying that people who have mental illnesses and go off aren't threats. I don't want to make that. But you can't always predict those. You can't get intelligence to prevent somebody who has a mental illness from whatever thing pushes them over the edge. You can't predict it. That's what's scary about those kinds of violent situations, is that you can't predict them. What's scary about terrorism is that people are willing to be that inhuman all the way up to the point where they drop the bomb and walk away from it. That's what's scary to me about those people.
Do you think there's a connection, or do you think there's a similarity in like dehumanizing as well? Like, do you think that there's a certain amount of dehumanizing that goes along there from the
Very much so.
from those people who will dehumanize the rest, like the people who are their targets.
Yeah, you
to
have
allow
to,
them
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you dehumanize someone, then you can degrade them and demean them, and you have no responsibility nor moral obligation to them because you don't think that they're a human being who's worth that.
Yeah, right.
And when you have people on YouTube who use that kind of language, that basically their entire channels are based on dehumanizing other people, that's a form of that's like, that's like a gateway drug to that, because if you don't see, I'm not comparing them to terrorists. What I'm saying is that the act of dehumanization makes it easier to see violence done to somebody else and not be moved by that violence. And that's why people can write on my channel, like I hope you die a horrible death, because they actually have lost that humanity, that human connection. They actually would be happy to see someone they don't even know suffer because of the opinions they hold. And just like, and people who are indoctrinated into extreme religious beliefs don't see infidels or heretics or atheists or apostates as deserving of our compassion and empathy. How can you kill someone you think deserves your compassion? I don't see it.
It's kind of like it reminds me of those like was it the Stanford experiment, where they have police officers and
prison experiment.
Prison experiment. And also the United States military, the things that those guys did to Afghani prisoners, how they would
the Tuskegee experiments. We've got
how they
a lot of things we can look at.
Comparing them to things like to dogs or cockroaches or whatever, and completely removing any humanizing element, and then doing all these horrible things to them. It all seems very interconnected.
So I think just on this, just finishing up on this topic, and then I guess we can just round up the hangout or whatever. I've been going for a while. My question is, why is it so important to people that it's classed as terrorism? What is the outcome of that? Why is it such a big deal? Because people seem to really need it to be. Like, if we do that, what does that mean? Does that lead to policies which are just more strict around, I guess, specifically Muslims, and that's what we're after? And if we did that, that would somehow help? It's very odd. Like, people they need it, like this visceral need for it to be terrorism. And if it's not, they get angry. They're like, you have to say it is. Like, what's the deal with that?
Well, because it's the whole narrative of the bad, evil Muslims that want to come and destroy the West. You got to, isn't that like you got to. But
I think only in practical terms. So I think what we would be talking about would just be increased scrutiny on Muslims because this guy did this massacre, even though we're not really particularly sure what's going on with him because he seems so mentally deranged that it's very difficult to tell if there's any specific terrorism motivation here. But for people, a lot of people watching this, they're like, it has to be terrorism. Like, Kristi, what do you think the reason is for that? Because, I find it kind of difficult to figure that out as to why it has to be.
Yeah. So let me give it, there was again, being an American, unfortunately, we have too many examples of these to look back on. But, oh God, maybe it was 10 or 15 years ago now, there was someone called the DC Sniper. And that guy went around and he would just randomly shoot people at gas stations or off of the highway. And he didn't have a political motivation. His motivation was just to scare everybody. Now, in my mind, that technically wasn't terrorism. He was engaging in terrorizing people. But again, going from a political science point of view, terrorism has a political goal. So it's not just enough to scare people. And so then again, this becomes important. Why do people want to call it terrorism? It's hard for me to generalize about a wide group of people's motivations without looking at their particular words to try to infer motivation based on what they've said. But I think it's unfortunately it's too easy a narrative. And honestly, I really do believe that when we overestimate, when we misclassify things as terrorism, where we jump to terrorism, it makes the terrorist happy. because again, the goal of ISIS is to pick a fight with the West, because they think that they're going to win a holy war with the secular, West,
Well,
if that
it's
happens.
it's in the title
And-
of the very thing. It's terrorism. They want to create
Yeah.
terror. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's the entire purpose.
And on our side, when all Muslims are homogenized as terrorists, for me, that's the terrorists winning. So I think people do it because they're afraid. And honestly, I mean, I have more Muslim friends now living in Europe, because I live in a city that's got 1 million people in it, than I ever did in the United States. So if you don't have friends who are Muslim, then it's a faceless, nameless thing that you just see on television, and you see it in a negative light. And if you can name your boogeyman, then you can go beat up on them, and then you'll feel safe, I guess, maybe is really what underlies it. But I think that the best thing we can do, which is tactically smart, is divide and conquer. The more that we can divide moderate Muslims and liberal Muslims, westernized Muslims against terrorism, so that there are more people standing with us and fewer people standing on their side, then they are diminished. Their power and strength is diminished.
Yeah.
So I understand that people want to call it that so they can give it a name and then find a solution and go and find the people responsible and stop them, and then you'll be safe. But it's a lie, in that it's not going to make you any safer. In fact, by pushing moderate Western, liberal Muslims away by calling them terrorists, you're contributing to the potential radicalization. So I think it's really self-defeating, and the best thing that we can do in the West is to reach out as much as possible with Muslims, and not say, why don't you speak out against it? We have to give people, again, this is about intersectionality. How many times do you actually see Muslims on a regular talk show that doesn't involve terrorism? They just haul people on from time to time when there's an event, and then you go, oh, well, you have no credibility because you're just, you're saying a party line. But if you see that person over again talking about humanitarian issues and the environment and this, that, and the other, then you get to know that TV personality, so that it just becomes one part of who they are. Not.
I don't
kind of
know.
went on a tangent, but I thought it was important.
I don't know why people never talk about it in these terms, but I often see it as an issue of religious conservatism. The more conservative you are in your interpretation of these doctrines, the less I'm
Have
a
you seen
fan
the Dark
of
Matter?
you think about the world. So,
have you seen the Dark Matter 2020 2525 video about the fundamentalist Christian and the fundamentalist Muslim and how much they had in common?
no.
It's like a Brokeback Mountain kind of parody.
Okay. Yeah. But that's the thing.
But
like,
yeah, it's extremism.
We need liberalism.
Yeah, it's true though.
Yeah.
It's extreme. I mean, you could take any one of those religions, and an extremist from any one of them would be,
They'd be bros. Like, yo, dude, hey, what's up, man? Allah Akbar. Yeah, praise
You're like,
Jesus.
oh, we hate
Not
gay
Jesus.
people. You hate gay people? Wow, I'm a fundamentalist Christian. I hate gay people. I think all this kind of thing down the line. So yeah, it's worth go checking out if you haven't
Like,
seen it.
I beat my children. Me too.
Ah,
Yeah,
exactly.
fantastic.
I cut off my
We need to control women
as well. Yeah, we
we
control.
need to make sure our women are modestly covered. Yeah.
Love it.
You're roboting a lot, but I thought we should wrap it up soon. I guess, anyways, because we've been going for a while.
Yeah.
But we didn't hear about Steve Shives in the flesh.
Steve Shives, that guy. See, he blocked me, so I couldn't actually see him in the flesh.
He blocked you?
Yeah, he blocked me in real life.
Oh, in real life. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That
Have you seen that? Did you watch Black Mirror? Yeah.
It's awesome show.
Wow. Got blocked by Steve Shives in real life. That's what happened.
Well, I was blocked by Steve until he found out that I'm a good dude.
Oh, yeah. I was never blocked by Steve, so I was never part of that club.
Be a good person and you'll be unblocked. I guess some of you are just bad people. So it's your
hashtag unblocked by Steve.
Yeah.
I said to him that he should make like a stamp that looks like the page that you get when you're blocked by someone, when you go onto their thing and it says, hey, you're blocked by this person. He needs to make a stamp that when he meets people in person, he can just like, and if they want an autograph or whatever, he can just like stamp it, and that can be his autograph of being blocked. Like,
I'm gonna get a
still
bunch of those
robot.
and sell them on.
You're still a robot.
roboting?
you're still a robot,
happened to
bro.
you?
I think it's because there's three people on one internet connection here.
Oh, that could
Yeah,
be the
might
case.
be, yeah. No, I'm not blocked by Steve.
Well, I
Someone's
think
asking.
we can round it up. So
Yeah.
maybe Kristi will just tell us about the experience of meeting the world's greatest YouTuber, Steve Shives.
Well, if I'm roboting, I gotta drop out and come back though, right?
I guess so. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
I nearly met Steve Shives. I was close to meeting Steve Shives.
And then what happened?
Well, I was in New York and we were driving to DC. What's that?
Did you get stood up?
Yeah, I got stood up by Steve. Hashtag stood up by Steve.
You waited there for like an hour and a half.
Oh no, he couldn't make it for some reason or other. We were like, oh, we'll hang out, and then he was actually, sorry, I can't make it. And I was like, okay, sweet, I'll do it another time.
Sure.
Next time I'm in
quote
America.
unquote can't make it, can he? Yeah, that's what happened.
Next time, we'll do it next time I'm in America. Thanks a lot, Steve.
You got cucked.
I got cucked. Steve's a cuck, Tim is a cuck, Kristi's a cuck, Michael's a cuck. Yeah.
Cucked by Steve.
All right, so am I any better? Because again, there are 2 people who live here, and I think all 3 of us are on the same Wi-Fi. So
Yeah, you're still
Nah.
robot as fuck.
But that's all right. We can still sort of hear you, so just do it as a robot. That's all
all
right.
right, robot voice coming on. Steve, it was lovely. It's always lovely when I meet you guys in person. It's so weird when I first spend like the first 5 minutes with any of you in person because I'm so unaccustomed to not having a screen. And
I've
not just
grown accustomed to your not face.
yes. But once I kind of get through that, it's like doing a hangout with them, and we just chatted and chatted and chatted and chatted and chatted and chatted and chatted, and then we should really make a video because we talked about doing a collaboration. What should we do it on? And we bandied around some ideas, and then talked about what we might talk about. And then we chatted some more, chatted some more, chatted some more. I'm actually going to see him. There's a bunch of us meeting up on Saturday. A bunch of YouTubers. Hopefully, the Liberal Ogre. I will also get to meet him in person.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I nearly met him as well.
Yeah.
It was very close. I was going to meet with him and Natalie in New York City, but then I ran out of time because I had to move all my stuff. So I didn't get to meet them either.
But really, it's strange that it's so similar and yet so different. It's so what you've experienced before, but in a completely different format. So my only regret is that my friends are around the world and I can't spend more time with each of them, because the thing that I love about my YouTube friends is that I'm friends with you guys because I find you interesting, and you guys care about the same issues I do. And that means I can talk to you guys about things that people just in my ordinary everyday life, I don't talk to about these things. And so you're all very special and precious to me. And we only get these little we get these little hangouts of 90 minutes or 2 hours, or we talk on Facebook, or we talk, like we write to each other on Facebook, or we write to each other on Twitter.
Hey, Kristi. Kristi,
what?
can you say exterminate?
Exterminate. You're gonna record this.
Say it.
Exterminate. Exterminate.
That actually
Exterminate the doctor.
Exactly like the thing.
So good. I love it.
Exterminate the doctor. Exterminate demotivator opinion.
No, thanks.
Exterminate.
No. Just
love
like
That's so funny. One of my favorite episodes is when the Daleks meet the Cybermen, and the Daleks say something like, you are you are inferior to us in every way except one, and that way is dying. And then they shoot the Cybermen. Anyway, sorry.
I'm not personally a fan of Doctor Who. It's too episodic for my taste.
I love it.
But then again, Black Mirror is episodic and it's brilliant. So maybe it's just, I think the writing in Doctor Who is a bit cheesy for me.
You gotta watch the ones that aren't written by
corny.
What's his face? Who's the guy? Who's the writer?
What's his face? Yeah, that's my favorite.
Was Russell T Davis?
No, the other one who Moffat. Yeah, you got to watch the ones that are not written by Moffat because he's
a cornball. Yeah,
you got to watch the David Tennant ones because they're awesome. And the Chris Eccleston ones.
was I gonna say? I was gonna say, yeah, like that fucking dude, the skeptic fence show guy. He ran into Steve at this like skeptic convention or atheist convention.
Reason rally?
Yeah, the Reason rally, and it was just him like berating Steve for like half an hour, and then you're just looking at Steve. He's like, I wish real life had a block button. You could see just how tired he was on like after half an hour on his face of this guy ranting at him, and then it's just like you can see in real time why he does that.
It's like the video of Michelle Obama that you showed me.
Oh yeah, Michelle Obama looking so depressed during Inauguration Day, just like, oh god.
Yeah, so Kristi has now met Steve and Kristiosity, right, in real life?
Mm-hmm. And you?
Yeah, and so I've met Kristi, and I've met Kristiosity, and I've met Garrett. Also, are we equal then? Does that mean we're equal in real life?
Well, till tomorrow.
Yeah. You're gonna overtake me.
Mike is invited to my wedding, and he's
going
to play jazz guitar.
Playing music at Tim's wedding, so I think I win.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be funny.
Yeah, baby.
Well, if I can get Barman Coyote and the Liberal Ogre in tomorrow, I'll still be ahead of you.
Yeah, but you got to like play at one of their weddings or something, otherwise it's not the same.
It's just like Pokemon or some shit, like collect them all.
I'm gonna get my balls out at Tim's wedding. It's gonna own everyone.
What the fuck? Is that a reference to something else?
No, I'm just gonna get my balls out.
Something else. Oh god. Jesus Christ.
It's just gonna be like, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded wife? And wait, husband. That thing.
Well,
like,
if you want to find out why you got disinvited, I'm just gonna lay this back on a loop. So.
I'm gonna take out my balls at Tim's wedding. I'm gonna take out my balls at Tim's wedding. I'm gonna take out my balls at Tim's wedding.
Exterminate.
It sounds better as a robot. Anyways, okay, this hangout's completely gone off the rails, and it was about a completely different subject than it was advertised as, anyways. So
good. Good.
So yeah, anything else? I don't know. Any suggestions?
Now let's do the after show. No, let's do the after show talk where we do all the gossip and we have the best time. So the stuff we do off air is always way better.
Yeah, it's way more interesting than the stuff that we talk about here.
Yeah.
Except that one time that we all talked dirty on Hangout. That was great. We had to like
I
explain.
have no idea what you guys are talking about anymore, to be honest.
Were you not in that Hangout, Tim? When we talked about like, oh no, I'll show you what things just you can say that don't break the mood but continue to ask for consent, and then we're all like talking dirty and shit.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I was forced to do that.
Oh yeah, that was actually that was one of my episodes. Actually, I hosted that dirty talk.
Right. Yeah. Talk dirty to me.
I'm not very good at talking dirty.
Talk dirty to me.
I always feel like I feel awkward, like I'm doing it to please the other person, but I'm not actually necessarily like totally into it. So I'm just like, yeah, baby, yeah, touch that thing. Wow, what a turn on.
Damn, you're getting me.
I was actually told.
Sorry.
I was actually told the talk dirty fail of all time, but I can't tell you it on air. I will tell you guys off air. But I doubled over in laughter. It's hilarious. I will tell you in private. I can't repeat this.
This is going to be the best post hangout ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I'll
60 people that
I'll record that shit secretly and link it to Barry. And then finally, I'll be cool amongst the anti-fam crowd, and
they will love me.
If you release a private information, if you release a private conversation to Barry, then he'll like you.
Yeah. Be the whistleblower. Whistle, baby, whistle, baby. I got lots of songs today.
So
I want to tell you this joke. Come on. I want to tell you this fail. Come on, get off air.
Okay.
All right. I'm wrapping
this
up. Thanks everybody for watching.
Goodbye, Cox. I'll talk to you soon. Go watch my video. Go check out my new channel.
Enjoy your weekend and the post-Trump Armageddon, which is to come. Goodbye.
It's the